Was a sports talk. My dad, my partner, my co-host, Cowboy Joe 64.
I am the father.
Just to get the Cowboys 2 good games to hopefully understand that they need to go receiver and go high with this next pick.
Yeah, that's really what this is gonna be about.
All right, you're looking live at FASCAST, Father and Son Cowboys and Sports Talks. I'm the host, DJ. I tell you what, aka Cowboy Jules, and I'm joined with my co-host, my dad, Cowboy Joe, and we back with another one. We back. It's Friday Night Live. Usually, my dad does the Cowboy OG show with B Bird and Big Time, but I think that show gonna be tomorrow. So I figured we just hop on and what I'm saying, discuss some of the stuff we've been seeing and hearing. And so that's what we're gonna do tonight. And we're not gonna be on long. We just had to come through and do what we do. So you want to say what's up to everybody, and I'll let you jump us off. You can tell us what you've been thinking and what you've been hearing, and then I'll piggyback off of whatever it is you want to talk about.
So I'm just telling everybody what's up. And then I gotta send out this link. So I just kind of let you actually do your thing to start out. But yeah, we got Super Bowl weekend and we're gonna talk about that a little bit. And
Yeah, we
yeah.
can talk about one of the things that's really been on my mind and really kind of steering my thought process is how they did this Hall of Fame thing, and Darren Woodson didn't get in again, and Jason Witten didn't get in again, and you know a lot of media don't talk about it. I this today was my first day ever hearing somebody that's big like Broadus talk about it, and how they are so biased and how they do the Cowboys players and how they've done them over the years. Everyone knows about Drew Pearson and how that was a big deal, and everybody knows about Darren Woodson, and it's really just not a good look for the NFL, um, and the writers that do the voting, the representatives of Dallas. They haven't been bringing home, and they haven't been representing for a long time. And it's just like I said, at this point in the game, with a lot of these things, like 30 years, they was on Radio Row today at the Super Bowl. Everybody's conversation when it came to the Cowboys was 30 years, 31 years. That's what everybody was talking about. When they was interviewing Emmitt Smith, they said, they haven't been to the Super Bowl, NFC Championship since you were there. 96 was the last one. So, uh, this is at this point, a lot of these things, it's 30 years, and the rubber is meeting the road. The rubber has met the road. The train has left. And so we're kind of just like, all of the Cowboy fans at this point, because it's just like what do you have to just, it's really, you want to be around the rim, as they call it. You want to be a contender every year. But in my opinion, the owner takes us out of contending every year before the season starts. He did it this year with Micah. He did it last year with not spending any money in free agency. He did it this year by hiring Eberflus. That was his guy. So I mean, every year it seems like, you know, the Joneses, they stick their hands in it, and they mess up the thing before it even starts. They mess up the season before it even starts. And so every year is something, and we have to figure out this year if they're gonna be able to just stay out of the way. So far, it looks like Christian Parker is. So far, it looks like Shoddy has been leading the charge and doing his thing, and that's what we've been hearing. And also, last year, it seemed like Shoddy was leading the charge, and he was the one that was leading the charge. You have to change your camera to the to your
Okay, yeah. Give me.
so it seemed like he was leading the charge with the George Pickens deal. So when Shotty comes in and Shotty does his thing, he developed his coaching staff, and as we can see, we had a great offense. But then, you know, the Joneses did their thing with Eberflus, and seemed like we had and
All
then
right,
with
you got me now.
yeah, you still not coming out of you got to come out of you need to come out of your microphone. So it's clear as day what the problem is. It's the fact that anything the Joneses put their hands in, and my dad thinks it's Jerry, it's not Steven. Anything that they put their hands on, it just it kind of ruins everything for us fans, and it becomes the crux of the downfall. So what it is we need to have a great off season. And like Emmitt Smith said today, if we have a boring offseason where they just do the right thing and there's not a lot of news, they sign George Pickens, they hire the right people on the staff, they have a good draft, they don't do nothing crazy, draft someone like Mozzie, do all of this like Schoon. If they just have a basic do what you're supposed to do type of
How am I now?
yeah, you good.
Sorry about
They
that.
have a basic do what you're supposed to do type of off season, then we'll be contenders next year. And barring injury. And that's all you want to be. Like I said, 30 years at this point, it's kind of fool's gold, and it's kind of like I don't want to say incompetent, but it's irresponsible to think that the Cowboys will win a Super Bowl this year. It's kind of irresponsible to be saying that and thinking that at this point. You got to just literally sit back. For us as Cowboy fans, we got to sit back and wait for the season to start. That's what we got to do. Because as a Cowboy fan, you know that this season can be ruined at any moment before it even starts. It could be, so you got to hold your horses and you got to make it through these processes. Like you got to make it through the coaching hiring. You got to make it through the draft. Okay. You got to make it through the off-season signings. Okay. You got to make it through the free agency period. Okay. And then you have to start the season healthy. You got to make it through training camp. So all of these things that you got to do, you got to make it through all of these steps before you can say, okay, now we contenders, because the Joneses have a tendency to mess some of those things up at some point. I mean, it could be anything. You could be looking at anything. We could be having a great offseason. We got Christian Parker, he's doing great, and then the next thing you know, the draft is ruined. So you got to make it through all of these steps, and then we did the good thing with Christian Parker. We can do something good with the draft, but then the Joneses to come in and they won't sign George Pickens. So you got to make it through that. Then you can sign George Pickens, have a great free agent. I mean, have a great coaching hire, and make it through the draft, but they won't go get any free agents. So what I'm saying. So you got to do that. You got to get good free agents. You got your hire out the way. Got your hiring out the way. Then you got to get through the draft. Then you got to get through, signing George Pickens and retaining your players. And then you got to sign free agency. You have to spend money. They don't like to spend money. You have to do it if you're going to win. It's just no way around it. And so you got to make it through all of those stages before you could just be even be considered a contender. And then not only that, you have to do it multiple years in a row. Just like how they've messed up multiple years in a row, we take a step back each year. They have to take a step in the right direction each year. We're trying to figure out if this is going to be the year that it starts, because last year they took 2 or 3 steps back when they traded Micah. So we got to figure out, and they took 2 or 3 steps back when they hired Eberflus. So like, if anybody would have asked me to be realistic when they hired Shotty, did I think we were going to win the championship this year? I did not. No matter if Michael would have stayed or not. I didn't think we would be winning the championship this year. I thought maybe at the best case scenario, it'll take a year to get Shotty to jail and everything to jail, and then the next year we'll be like really, really, really contending. But then what happened, and so now I'm thinking that this year could be the year that everything gels with Christian Parker, with everybody gels, and then next year, I think, in my opinion, if I had to say now, if everything goes right with this offseason, if we get through those 5 things that I said, and then we have a good year this year, if we don't get to the NFC Championship team or game or Super Bowl, and if we just lose fair and square, I'd be okay, because I know that the next year we should be super contenders, and anything can happen. Once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. So what I mean, but it starts there. I'll be okay if they just have a good year like they're supposed to. We have a boring off season like we supposed to, and they have a good year. And the defense makes improvement, the offense makes improvement, stays where it's at, it gets better. I'll be okay. What I don't want to happen is I don't want them to take a step back. I don't want them to have a bad draft. I don't want them to go another year and not spend big money in free agency. I don't want them to not sign George Pickens. I don't want them to not do all these things. You got to do all these things. And then in the next 2 years, 3 years, we should be contending. We should be our hat should be in the bucket with the rest of the teams that contend year in and year out, year in and year out. I mean, it's just, that's what I'm looking forward to.
So you can't hear me now?
I can go ahead.
Yeah, I clicked on something. I don't even know what I did. But yeah, it's realistically, I think your 2 or 3 year plan thing is solid, but at the same time, they can do free agency. New England, they spent a lot of money in the offseason, and what they did, they just brought in, free agents. They were not, the top tier free agents, but they just did a good job of signing the guys that they signed. They spent a lot of money in free agency when you add it all up, and then they draft good too. So, and then Seattle is kind of the same way. They did the same thing with the coach, free agency, and they did a good draft. So the Cowboys, you can do it really in 1 to 2 years, but like you said, they gotta just do what they've never done before. I think the coaching hires, I think it says a lot about where they are. Somebody over there just flipped a light switch and just realized, you got to have young coaches that can relate to players. Every one of these guys that they're hiring on the defensive side, the defensive players are going to, they're going to like the energy, like the personalities of the coach. So the defense, you was one of the worst in the league. So really anything you're doing is going to improve that. And then, Dak is going to be Dak. So, Dak is going to play good. And I think they're going to get pick and sign. It may be just the usual drama. We might get surprised. They might sign him quicker. But, we just have to see. I've been looking at these mock drafts, and pretty much every mock I'm looking at, there's 2 or 3 players that's falling to him. So Sonny Styles, and then Colton Hood. There are some with Caleb Downs falling to him. So, you can turn this around, and then you got, of course, Max Crosby, that situation. So if they traded those picks for Max Crosby, then, that would turn your defense around too. And just got to have good coaching. I mean, these 2 teams that are playing Sunday, coaching is a big deal. They got good coaches on both sides of the ball. So I think we headed in the right direction. I just want to get your input on the young coaches and what kind of defense we're going to be playing. You look at that a lot. So,
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been preaching, and I'm pointing it out now, it's not necessarily that, like, they're not doing anything. Emmitt Smith said a lot today. When he
what did Emmitt say?
He talked for about 10 minutes with Stephen A.
And I got to go back to Darren Wilson when you get through, so I can put my spin on that. But yeah,
he talked about that. He talked about he said a lot, and he said a lot about the Cowboys happen to be the ownership happened to be tired of same old song and dance, same old let's do this to get a story, but at the end of the day it doesn't produce wins. It's just, he said basically that, when I say he said a lot, the one statement that he made is the Cowboys need to have a boring offseason. And by boring offseason, what he said was get George Pickens signed, draft the right players, do what you got to draft the right players to where it won't be a big deal. Like, yeah, Sonny Styles was there. They took Sonny Styles. No news here. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. That would be boring, because it's just like, that's it. I mean,
It would be exciting for me.
right. But I mean, that's but the thing is, what
He's just
said,
saying
do what you're supposed to do.
yeah, just let the game come
like
to you and do a
do
good
what you're
job.
supposed to do. Like with George Pickens. There doesn't need to be no franchise tag and stories about him and doing all of this and he came out and he did this. It doesn't need to be any of that. Just it needs to be boring. Sign him tomorrow and get it done. That's just it. Move on. It needs to be boring. We don't want to hear, right now it's not boring. We trying to figure out they could be talking to him right now, but they not. We seeing news articles. Cowboys haven't said anything to George Pickens. They haven't talked to him at all. And it's just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, here we go again. How you doing, Kelly? It's like, here we go again. It's like, here we go again. They doing the same old song and dance. So when you have a boring off season, it's just like that's what you're looking for. So what I was gonna say about
that's Kills. Hey, Kills.
Yeah, that's Kills. Okay. So what I was saying about what I was saying about the Christian Parker and the young guys hiring is basically they just doing what normal people do. They just doing what normal franchises do. They just doing what we would do. Like, that's like when you look at Shotty and when you look at the rest of the organization, Shotty is just doing what normal football guys do. He's just doing what we would do. It's just like a couple years ago. You can go back you can go back 3 years ago when Shotty took over the play calling and all of that, took over the offense after the 49er game. He just started doing what we would do. They just start using motion like everybody else in the league. They just start doing what we would do. Okay, and then the next year happens when McCarthy took the reins back. We fell off. Our offense fell off. That got hurt. And then Shotty pulled back too because that was like Shotty was just like Shotty kind of seeing what was happening and Shotty was putting in his bid to get the next head coaching job. He was just going to follow the rules, just be quiet, sit back, wait for McCarthy to leave and do what he had to do. And so the next year that happened for Shotty. So with the George Pickens trade, let's be clear. That was Shotty doing that. They've said that numerous times. And they Stephen A and them said it today on their show. That they're giving, Shotty the credit for that. So would we have done that with Pickens? Would we have done that? Any forward-thinking young guy or any forward-thinking football player, football-minded person, would we have signed Pickens? Would we have traded for Pickens? We would have. So he's just doing what we would do. I mean, just
making like good decisions. Yeah.
Will Philadelphia sign George Pickens if they had the opportunity? They would. So he's just doing what we would do, And then when it comes to hiring his staff last year, he just did what football guys do. Just interview 10 to 15 people and hire the best ones, right? And they had a great offense. I mean, nothing to see here. And so, what did the Joneses do though? The Joneses, they went and got Eberflus and they traded Micah. See, that's what they did. And then now, after that collapsed and caused us a season, possibly more, what does Shotty come back and do now? Oh, what were you saying all year? We need a guy like the guy from Detroit, the young young defensive coordinator, somebody with some emphasis, somebody with some dog, a mentality like that. And you said that multiple times this year, and you kept saying they don't do that. That's not what they do. But that's what we would do. And that's what anybody with a forward-thinking mind would do. And so they let Shotty run that this time. And that's exactly what Shotty did because he does what we would do. And so he just did the logical thing. You just interview a lot of people. You can try to get an up-and-coming star. You let him fill out his staff, and you just go from there. I mean, it's not rocket scientists. What's unique about what's happening with the Cowboys is that the Joneses are not involved. That's what's unique. And that's why all of these decisions look good from the jump. They look good from the initial point because the Joneses are not involved. And the only thing that looks bad are the things that the Joneses are involved with, like not signing Pickens, or it's a question if they're going to sign Pickens, because this is a front office type of deal. So the draft, we got to see what the draft is going to be, because if you leave it to me and Shoddy, Will McClay, and everybody else, if they run the draft, I think we're gonna have a great draft. I think it would be no question. Will we have a great draft if it's just Shoddy and Will McClay and the scouts? We'll have a great draft. But if you let Jerry and Steven kind of do what they do, then so you might get a tight end or something like that. So it's kind of like, the Jones is kind of at the point to where I feel like they we got to try something else. Let's let Shoddy do what he do. And to me, it looks like he's GMing this thing, and I'm all for it because it's 30 years, man. We don't have nothing else to lose at this point.
So I saw some of the comments that Jerry made with some of the media, and to me, it's just some of the stuff that he always say when you put him in front of a microphone. Sometimes he just says the obvious thing that he has to say.
Oh yeah, I got you, Kels. That's
yeah. Yeah. So now the phrase that we're hearing today is bust the budget. So you got, ring around the rim, right kind of guys. A couple years ago, it was all in.
Yeah, all in.
So now we got bust the budget. So that's kind of like his placeholder with the media that he does. But yeah, I think that the draft, if Shoddy and Will McClay really call their shot, I don't really think you can mess this draft up. I think you're gonna have a good draft. And Steven and Jerry being in the background, that's all working right now. So we'll just kind of see how that plays out. I think they moving in the right direction. I think it's a possibility they still might hire Zach Orr. That would be great if they can. All about him. He went to DeSoto. Do you know anybody that what year he was there? Any of that? I don't.
No, I just know that he. I know about him.
So pull him up and see what year he was there. But
then I also know that he even had an interview for the coordinator position. So
yeah, and I think he's younger than Christian Parker, if I'm not mistaken.
He's 33.
And he went to North Texas.
He went to both of my alma maters, both of my schools. He graduated from DeSoto, and so did I in 2007. And then he graduated from University of North Texas, and I'm a current student at University of North Texas.
See if you can figure out what year he was at DeSoto. But
he's 33, so let's see. He was there.
I can't do the math.
I can, because
so you came out in what year?
07. So he probably came out in 2010. Let me see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you.
But hopefully they can get him signed, and if they get him, that'll just be a grand slam for your defensive coordinators. And then at that point, like I was talking to you earlier, just about what kind of defense they're going to play, how they're going to deploy the players, and we have to just wait and see. I want to go back to the Hall of Fame. So,
yeah, he graduated in 2010.
Okay.
We went to school together, actually.
Wow, really? So you don't remember him?
I'm looking at him now. I don't remember him, but I'm just trying to see.
Was he there?
I do. No, he was there for sure. Like when I was a senior, he was a freshman.
You're a freshman? Okay. I wonder where did they live. But yeah, so the Hall of Fame thing, it's really, to me, it's kind of, it was already bad. It's worse with the way they're doing it now. There's some people in the media that they just are not doing the right thing. This thing with Belichick was silly, the way they did that. And I'm gonna take you back. I don't know if you remember this, but they kind of did Michael Irvin that way. Michael Irvin got in on his third try. Michael Irvin should have been a first ballot. And what was weird about Michael Irvin, the first year he was eligible. So, the 49ers, they never could beat us. They beat us one time in the playoffs, and we basically just smoked them every time. Well, we didn't smoke them, but we beat them. And then they put Steve Young in on his first ballot. Steve Young only beat us once, in those playoff games.
Mhm.
And then the following year, they did the same thing. And so, but yeah, it's this East Coast media. It goes back to Tex Round putting the Cowboys in the NFC East with the Philadelphia writers, the New York writers, all of the writers on the East Coast. So they've always had it out for our guys. And then I think our writers, they haven't done a good job. They go up there for the weekend and they all, they
I don't wanna
partied.
cut you off. I gotta go get something real quick.
Go ahead.
So you can do that. But I want to say this before I go to get my thing.
Hey,
Zachary-
before you
Zach-
do that,
Zach Orr-
my charger is sitting over there from my phone in the room. Bring my charger. And what were you saying, Zach Orr?
He's going to be the person that when Christian Parker leaves, he's the person that can continue to run his defense.
If they hire him.
Yeah, if they hire him, he will be that person.
So let me go on my Hall of Fame rant while you do that.
All right.
So, but yeah, the East Coast media has been an issue with the Cowboys and the Hall of Fame voting as long as I can remember. Back in the day, so each city has a sports writer that represents the team. Well, I wouldn't say represent the team, but that's not even really what's happening. But they do the let's see, what's she saying? CI committee every year, whatever it's basking basis. Yeah. So, Kels, I mentioned to you before, I'm a third generation Cowboy fan. So I go back as far as it's not a whole lot of content creators that's seen every Cowboy Super Bowl. I've seen every one. The Super Bowl 5, their first one, that they lost to Baltimore when they played that game. I was 7 years old. I remember watching the game like it was yesterday. I was at my aunt's house watching it with my folks. And of course the first one they won against the Dolphins. But the East Coast media has been doing this. It's the whole America's team thing. And so Frank Luxa was the original writer for the Cowboys media that represented the Cowboys. So they have to go do a presentation. And, I put it right up there with being a U.S. senator or congressman, congresswoman. When you go to Washington, you're supposed to bring home the bacon. Well, what's happening with our representatives from the media, they do a lot of talking, but they're not getting our guys in. And guys on other teams, if Darren Wilson was a Pittsburgh Steeler, Green Bay Packer, or a Miami Dolphin, he would be in. And so they've done our players like that. Frank Luxa, RIP, he's no longer with us, but Bob Hayes didn't get in when he was a writer. That was really bad. And then Chuck Howley went all those years. That started with Frank Luxa. Frank Luxa should have got Chuck Howley and Bob Hayes. And I'm not sure if he was still there when Drew went through his whole thing. I know he was probably for the first part. But, it's the sports writers from this area, and Shireen Williams is a representative now. They're not carrying a lot of weight in the room when they go and vote. And there's a lot of silly stuff going on. But now it's sort of taking on a life of its own with other teams. You see this stuff with Bill Belichick and that happened. And so the whole and then I think they have a limit now on how many people they can put in, and you want to keep it exclusive. But there's a point where it's just being ridiculous. And then they just waiting too long to put guys in. Some of these guys are going in and they've got dementia on a senior committee, like Chuck Howley, that's what happened with him. I think Kenny Stabler, he got turned down several years and then he passed away and they voted him in. So Kenny Stabler, he didn't, he's a Hall of Famer, and they got a saying. Yeah. they got a saying that says, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. And whether you go in when you're 80 years old or when you're 60 years old. So they got a lot of issues with the senior committee. Kels Everson Walls is another good example. And, it's happening with a lot of guys. Now, Darren Woodson, he has to get in before he goes to the senior committee. And I don't even know how many years he has before that happens. I think next year might be his last year. My green screen going out as usual. So, yeah, I don't know how. I think Darren Woodson, he may have a year left before he goes to the senior committee. If Darren Woodson goes to the senior committee, he won't be getting in for years because they got issues with the senior committee by itself. So this is nonsense. Witten, I'm going to say that it's two players, Witten and Zach Martin. They're going to probably get in the next 2 or 3 years, maybe 4. They're going to get in. Tyron Smith, a lot of people were thinking that he was like a shoe-in. He's not going to be. If he gets in, it's going to take a while. And so, Tyron Smith could be just like Darren Woodson. But I think Darren Woodson, if you just kind of look at the body of work, he might be ahead of Tyron, but yeah, it's gonna be the same thing. So, but yeah, this whole thing is so jacked up, and I think Woody made it farther this time, but it's getting pretty close. And they putting guys like Roger Craig in. They put the punter in over Darren Woodson. Yeah, they are just being ridiculous with this committee. Newey Scruggs mentioned who our current writers are. I have to look through my text messages. It's Shireen Williams. I think she is the only one. I think Rick Goslin was the senior committee rep, Kels, but I think Rick Goslin retired. And but yeah, they did the same thing with Bob Hayes and Chuck Howley. They waited until they were no longer with us and put them in. And Bob Hayes, he had the thing they tried to hold over him for years. It was just some stuff off the field. Just like right now, the stuff that happened with Bob Hayes, it would be like a story just mixed in with 100 other stories. Just some stupid, silly stuff with, the marijuana type things and stuff like that. But yeah, and then Chuck Howley, inexplicably, they held him out all those years. So I need Kels, we need to find out how many more years Darren Woodson has before he goes to the senior committee, because once he goes to the senior committee, it's gonna be a while. What you showing right there? You back?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So we haven't done our segment Reddit. We haven't done our Reddit segment in a while, so I figured I would just pull it up. And the first thing I pulled up, it says that Orlovsky said this today, and I seen this live when he said this. He said he actually believed that Dallas is starting a brand new Super Bowl window with the hiring of Shoddy and Christian Parker, and if they sign George Pickens, he thinks this opens up a new window. And if they get the defense together, that this opens up a new window. And with Dak being in the last quarter of his career, it's kind of always like you said, like the Elway situation, or when he finally understood the game and he got the pieces that he needed, he came in and they went all the way with just the things that that he didn't have his whole career. And he was just basically saying that Dak is at that point in his career to where he just understands the game, and as long as he can stay healthy and they can start going on the right way, he thinks that this opens up a new window. So what do you think about that?
So I'm gonna tell you, and I talked to you about this before. So with John Elway, he went to 3 Super Bowls. He was 0-3. Now, when they drafted Terrell Davis, they hired Mike Shanahan. They hired the defensive coordinator they hired at the time. He was he was kind of like the Steve Spagnuolo type defensive coordinator. I can't remember his name. So they hired him, and then they brought in some free agents on the defense side of the ball in Denver. And so John Elway won his Super Bowl at 37 and 38, or it was either 36 and 37 or 30. I think it was 37 and 38 years old. And Dak is better than the Elway right now, where Elway was at 37. But and also they rebuilt Denver's team like in 1 or 2 off seasons. It wasn't like years. So, but they turned it around pretty quick. They added some players on offense. The main one was Terrell Davis, and they won 2 in a row. So Dak, I think he can be done because I've seen it done before. And Dak is right now playing better than Elway was at that time. So, but yeah, I'm gonna just stay on this that they can turn this team around in 1 off season and be on their way.
To your point, I'm looking at Reddit, and this was the next thing right here. Dak Prescott finishes the season with 4,552 yards and 30 TDs. 4 seasons with 4,000 yards and 30 TDs since 2019, more than any other NFL quarterback. See, one thing that was happening, I'll say this. one thing that was happening the year before last, it was that year that we went 12-4. I think it was the year I'm talking about when we had that Detroit game where CD had that 99-yard touchdown. It was that year. We start seeing Dak play like we really didn't know what to say and how to because nobody expected that. Nobody expected him to play like lights out like that for an entire season. Nobody expected him to be like, play at an MVP level. Nobody expects that, because Dak has those games where he has those, in his career for the most part. His rookie year was awesome, but he has those games where he played half of his games good, and half of those games he be in like deer in the headlights. But like a couple, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago was the first year that we seen Dak to where he didn't have that look at all, really, throughout the whole year. He just played like he was second in NFL voting, MVP voting that year, and the only reason why he didn't win MVP is because they got put out of the playoffs, because his stats was better than Lamar's in every category except rushing, and his stats was better than Josh Allen in every category except rushing. So it wasn't even really close. He missed it secondly. He missed it by second because of the playoffs. And then the same thing with like this year. And last year, Dak was playing great. He got hurt last year, right? But and he was having a down year, but we was having a down year as a team. But Dak has been playing awesome. He's one of the most. He's probably the most accurate quarterback in the NFL.
Hold that thought. So, Kels, just FYI, Shireen Williams, she's not young. She's an older writer. She's been around for a very long time. So the writers, so I know she's one of them, and she's she's not young, but yeah, she been around for a while. And then did I talk about Everson Walls? What happened with him?
Mm-mm.
So one year on the senior committee, they had Bob Hayes and I think it was Bob Hayes and Cliff Harris. But anyway, so the way the senior committee normally works, when you get nominated, you just get rubber stamped. So when they nominate you for the senior committee, like they did Drew in the year he got in, we knew he was getting in because when you make it to the final, you're in. Well, this year they did something they've never done before. The year, I think it was Bob Hayes and Cliff Harris. It might have been, I can't remember. So the long story short, they had two Cowboy players on a senior committee, and they voted them out instead of voting them in. They had never done that before. That was just crazy. So they've been doing this thing with the Cowboy players. I did look at this and I Googled this too, and I was surprised. So the team that has the most Hall of Fame players, I just assumed it was the Steelers. It's actually the Bears. And the reason is because they are 101 years old. So the Cowboys and the Steelers, they were formed around 1960 or so. But so it's the Bears, it's Dallas and Pittsburgh and Green Bay. They all right. I think Dallas has 32, Green Bay has 32, and the Steelers have 33, 34, whatever the case may be. But what's going to happen is at some point Dallas is going to pass Green Bay and Pittsburgh. If you count Jason Witten, Zach Martin, and so Kel said Darren Woodson has 2 more years, so he's probably going to be fine. But they cutting it kind of close. But you were talking about what were you saying? What were you talking about? Dak. Yeah, I just think that if they have a good draft, Dak is going to be good. And what we got to talk about with this draft is they may have to take an offensive player. The defensive players may be gone. So what you gonna do then?
I'll tell you another thing. I mean, look. This has always been my philosophy when it comes to drafts. I don't, my philosophy is unique, and your philosophy is kind of like mine, but my whole thing is this: I like to pick players, and I like to pick players. I like to say. I like to pick players unless it's just like obvious somebody falls to you like that, like CD falling to you. But other than that, I like to pick players, like regardless if it's somebody thinks it's a reach or not. I like to pick players like I say, no, I know for a fact that if I pick him, I don't care who we playing, they're not gonna be able to stop us if I pick him.
So who's your offensive player you would take at
Jeremiah Love?
I don't think he's gonna be there.
Okay. Well, if he's not there, then oh well. I would take.
It might be Proctor.
I would take him if he's there. My picking order would be Jeremiah Love first, Sonny Styles. Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Hood, and
I like Hood. I've been watching film of him. I think Jeremiah Love is going to be gone. So pull up your tankathon right now. They've been nailing the draft, by the way. A lot of people don't like them. Well, they be on it.
Yeah, they do. But this is what I'm gonna say.
I've never seen Jeremiah Love get to 12.
I think that they're gonna have. I think that a lot of them gonna get to 12, and I think that, like I said, I'm not opposed to going to get people either.
Say what?
I'm not opposed to
trading the picks.
I'm not.
Yeah, I would be fine with trading the picks for Max Crosby as well. I mean,
let me tell you what I would be trading, but I would be trading I would be trading Green Bay pick for him though. But this is what I'm gonna say about this here. There's no way in the world that I'm taking Keldrick Falk. I'm not doing that. That's just not happening.
Yeah, I think that would be if. Last year, they flirted with taking this other defensive player. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but
he ended up not being good.
Nope.
Now there was a defensive tackle that they were thinking about taking, and when we played them, he just dominated us. I can't remember who his name, but yeah, Keldrick Falk this year. You remember last year the player that A&M had? They kept having Dallas take him in the mock drafts.
Yeah, the linebacker.
He wasn't good.
Edgerrin James.
No, Edgerrin James is good. No, he was an edge, and he ended up going to Cincinnati. He didn't really do training camp. He wasn't. But so I think Falk is this year's version of that player. Now I think this year's version of Ted McMillan is Downs. We're gonna be hearing about Caleb Downs all throughout draft season. He's not gonna get to 12. But yeah, and if he gets to 12. They have to take him.
Oh yeah,
and hopefully
Redskins not gonna let that happen.
These
Shamar Stewart.
It was Shamar Stewart. So hopefully our defensive coaches that we're hiring, they would just really let the Joneses know, okay, if these players are there at 12, including Will McClay, obviously.
Look at Washington. They not letting that happen. Look at Washington.
Who they got? Caleb Downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him go. I've also seen Washington taking Sonny Styles. So where is Styles going right here?
And they got Sonny Styles going after us. That would be absolutely.
And they got us taking Falk
over Styles. So that's how remotes get broken and stuff like that.
Well, that's how you mess up your draft. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how.
And the content creators that I listen to and you listen to, nobody likes Falk. So the content creators normally have this thing right. I'm interested to see what Kels has on Kendrick Falk. I just think he's. I don't see it. But
me neither.
Who they got us taking at 20? The 20th pick. It's looking really, shaky. It's just not a whole lot of good players.
Can you hear me still?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but my computer is starting to trip. I got too much stuff going on at one time. So how long we been on?
We've been on 45 minutes. We can wrap. Who they got us taking at 20?
I can't even get to it.
Oh, okay. I can pull mine up.
Yeah, maybe I can do something. Nah, it won't even let me get to it. And my phone dead, so yeah.
Okay, we can go ahead and wrap.
All right, you would have to wrap us up because I can't do nothing.
Okay, well, appreciate you guys joining and especially Kels. Appreciate it. We always like to get your insight and your feedback on things because you're right there. You're connected. So
yeah, Kels. Hey, we love that. Kels, I would appreciate. Hey, I appreciate it. And when you hop on, it's always a good thing.
Yep. So father and son.
Y'all can hear me and see me still?
I can hear you and see you. So we can go ahead and
okay.
And
yeah. So y'all make sure y'all follow us on. Make sure y'all follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, and Instagram. And like I said, it's a never a dull moment in Cowboy Nation. So we're gonna come back with another one in a couple of days, and throughout this whole off season, we're gonna get ready to get it cranked up. We're gonna be going every other day here in a little bit. So we haven't even really got started yet, like we normally do. So, but that's coming. So
give me your thoughts on the game right quick.
And,
I'm pulling for
y'all.
Tank.
Just make sure y'all interact with us. Like,
okay, go ahead.
I'm pulling for Tank.
Yeah,
and I'm pulling for Tank, and I think that I think that it's not going to even be close. Like I said, I think it'll be like 24-3 at halftime.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a big prediction, but yeah, we're pulling for Tank, so we'll see what happens. But we'll appreciate you guys joining, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Peace.